Hello and welcome to the Myschool channel. My name is Angela, and in this video we're going to be reviewing the English language JAMB past question for the year 2005. Please don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Myschool channel. In this video, we're going to be reviewing questions 51 to 74. Let's begin with question 51. Choose the option that has the same consonant sound as the one represented by the letters underlined. Healthy. So TH is underlined in that word. We have option A, father, option B, path, option C, they, and option D, that. So let's go to the board to transcribe each of the words. So for the word healthy, it's transcribed as this. The word father is transcribed as this. The word path is transcribed as this. The word they is transcribed as this. And finally, the word that is transcribed as this. So you can see the difference. We have this is the f sound, it is the voiceless sound. While this is the v sound, it is voiced. So that's the difference between the two of them. So we are looking for the option that has the same voiceless sound as that one in healthy, and that is path. So our answer to this question is path. Let's go back to the board to mark the answer. So the answer to this question is option B, path. Question 52. Again, we have to look for the option that has the same consonant sounds as the letters in bracket. This time around we have N and G. We have option A, single, option B, impugn, option C, ink, and option D, orange. So let's go back to the board to transcribe each of the words. Then for the word English, it is transcribed as this. So you can see this is a little bit different. The N, when you have N and G together, the N is usually the ng sound. It is very important to note when you see N and G, and the G is pronounced as G, not G. You have the ng sound representing the N. It's important to note that. Then for the word single, it's transcribed as this. Again, you can see for the N, it's written as ng. Then we have impugn, impugn. Then ink is transcribed as this. So the same thing goes for N and K together. The ng is pronounced as ng. So we have ink. Then we have the word orange. You can see this one is a little bit different because it's not the G sound, it's the J sound. So this doesn't have to be the ng sound. So from the transcription, you can see that both this and this have that ng and the G sound. They are similar. So the answer to this question is single. Let's go back to the screen to mark our answer. So the answer to this question is option A, single. Question 53. Choose the appropriate stress pattern from the options. The syllables are written in capital letters. So we have the word jurisprudence, and we have different options where the stress is placed on different parts of that word. So let's go to the board to see what the answer to this question is. So we have the word jurisprudence. The first thing you do in this particular question is to divide the words up into syllables. We have ju, ris, pro, and dens. And that thing to note about stress pattern is that wherever there is a weak vowel in the particular syllable, the stress is never placed on that syllable. So we have two weak vowels in the English language. We have the schwa sound, and the E sound. So whenever you see either of these vowel in a syllable, the stress is never placed there, except in the case where all the syllables in that word has a weak syllable. Then in that case, you revert back to the normal rules you're familiar with. So in this particular word, we have a weak syllable in the syllable dens. We have the schwa sound here. Then for pro, there is no weak syllable. For ris, there is a weak syllable, the E sound. And then for this, we have the diphthong ur. although it's a different syllable, but it's very short when you pronounce Ju. Okay, so the stress is going to be placed on the third syllable pro. Okay, so let's go back to the screen so I can answer. So since the stress is on the syllable pro, our answer to this question is option C. Question 54. Again, we have to place the appropriate stress pattern for this particular word, and we have options that in which the stress is placed in different parts of the word. You have to select the correct option. We have the word suburbanite. Again, let's go back to the board to find out what our answer will be. So for the word suburbanite, again, we divide the word into its syllables. We have su, b, night. Okay, suburbanite. So in the first syllable, there is a weak vowel there. So we have the O sound. Here we have this sound, so it's not a weak syllable. Then we have another weak vowel here, suburbanite. Then here we have a diphthong I. So we can see that in both the second and last syllable, there is no weak vowel. So the rule we revert to is the one in which for nouns or adjective, the stress is usually placed on the first syllable. But if the first syllable has a weak vowel, we'll move on to the next. If that has a weak vowel, we'll move on to the next. So that's the rule. But for verbs, it goes backwards. You start from the last syllable and move forward. Since this is a noun, the stress is going to start from the first syllable. But since the first syllable has a weak vowel, we'll move on to the next one. So this is why the stress is on the second syllable, bur. Okay? So let's go back to the screen to make our answer. So since the stress is on the syllable bur, our answer to this question is B. Question 55. Again, we have to look for the appropriate stress pattern for the word departmentalize. So we have the options divided into different syllables. So let's go back to the board to determine our answer. All right, for the word departmentalize, we have to divide the word up into syllables. We have D, part, men, so lies. Okay, so we have to determine which one of them has a weak syllable. The syllable D has the short sound E, so that's a weak syllable. Part has the sound R, it is not a weak syllable. Then we have men, which has the vowel E, it is not a weak syllable. Then we have T, it has the vowel sound E, that is a weak syllable. And finally we have I, which is not a weak syllable. So from each of these, we can see that it's only R, E, and I that is not a weak syllable. Considering that this particular word has a suffix, alize, talize is a suffix. Okay, so we do not place stress on the suffix of a particular word. We ignore them when we are trying to identify where the stress is supposed to be. And also considering that this is a verb, departmentalize, the stress starts from the back. We ignore the suffix and we place the stress in the syllable men. So let's go back to the screen to mark our answer. So since the stress is on the syllable men, our answer to this question is option A. Question 56. Choose the option that has the same stress pattern as the given word. So the word is refuse. We have option A, reform, option B, intact, option C, obscure, and option D, phantom. So let's go to the board to find out what our answer will be. So for the first word, refuse. Refuse is a noun, and when you transcribe it, it's transcribed as this. This is different from the verb refuse. Okay, so you can see the transcription is different, and that's the reason why they emphasize that it's a noun. Then we have reform, which is transcribed as this. Then we have intact. Intact is transcribed as this. Then we have the word obscure, which is transcribed as this. Then the word phantom, which is transcribed as this. So in order to identify the stress pattern for each of the word and to find out which has the same stress pattern as refuse, we have to find out first of all whether it's a noun, verb, or adjective, what part of speech it is, and also where the weak syllable is in that particular word. All of this will help to determine where the stress will be placed in that word. So let's begin with refuse. So since this is a noun, the stress is on the first syllable as opposed to that of refuse, which is on the second syllable, because for verbs, the stress is usually in the last syllable, except in the case where there is a weak vowel. But in this case, that is not the case. So for this one, the stress is on the first syllable. Then for the word reform, the stress is on the second syllable, because first of all, it can either be a noun or a verb. But in either case, it is going to be on the second syllable, because for the first syllable, we have a weak vowel there, and you never stress a syllable with a weak vowel. Then for intact, the stress is on the second syllable. Again, there is a weak vowel, and again, this is a verb. So for verbs, you stress the last syllable. Then we have the word obscure. This is an adjective, okay? Normally, the stress is supposed to be in the first syllable in an adjective, but because of the weak vowel here, we move the stress to the second syllable, okay? Then for the last one, phantom. Phantom is a noun. The stress is on the first syllable and not on the second. We have an adjective here, and then we have a noun. So from the stress pattern, we can see that both refuse and phantom have the same stress pattern. So let's go back to the screen to mark our answer. So from the explanation, we can see that the answer to this question is option D, phantom. Question 57. Again, we have to look for the option that has the same stress pattern as the given word downtrodden. We have downgrading, prescribing, functional, and internal. So let's go to the board to find out what our answer is. So for the word downtrodden, it can be transcribed as this. The word downgrading can be transcribed as this. The word prescribing can be transcribed as this. The word functional can be transcribed as this. And finally, the word internal can be transcribed as this. Okay, so from the transcription, we have to first of all identify what part of speech each of the word is, and also to identify which of the syllable is weak. So with all of those information, we'll be able to determine where the stress is supposed to be placed in that word. So for the word downtrodden, downtrodden is an adjective. So the stress is usually on the first syllable. And since there is no weak vowel in the first syllable, the stress is there, downtrodden. Then for the word downgrading, it's a verb, okay? So the stress has to begin from the back, from the last syllable. Since there is a weak syllable here, you have to move on to the next one. So this is why the stress is in the second syllable. Then for the word prescribing, again, it's a verb. And since we can't put the stress here, also it is a suffix, and that way you can know why the stress is not placed here. So the stress will be in the next one, okay? Then for the word functional, functional is an adjective. So the stress is on the first syllable. And since there is no weak syllable there, it's okay to put it in the first syllable. Then we have the word internal. Internal is an adjective. So it begins from the first syllable. But there is a weak vowel in the first syllable. So this is why the stress moves on to the next one. So that's why we have the stress on the second syllable. So here we have both adjectives and adjectives. So from the transcription and the stress placement, we can see that both downtrodden and functional have the stress on the first syllable. So functional is the answer to this question. Let's go back to the screen to mark our answer. So our answer to this question is option C, functional. Question 58. Choose the option that has a different stress pattern from the others. A, interpreter. B, impossible. C, remarkable. And D, criticism. So let's go to the board to see which of them is our answer. So we have the word interpreter. We can transcribe this as interpreter. Then the word impossible is transcribed as this. The word remarkable is transcribed as this. And finally, the word criticism is transcribed as this. Okay, again, we have to identify what part of speech it belongs to and whether it has a weak syllable or not in each of the words in order to identify where to place the stress for each of them. So for the word interpreter, interpreter is a noun. So the stress is usually on the first syllable for nouns, but in this case we have a weak vowel in that first syllable, so the stress cannot be placed there. So we'll move on to the second syllable where there is no weak vowel. Then we have the word impossible. Impossible is an adjective, right? And so for adjectives, the stress is usually on the first syllable, but since there's a weak vowel there, we'll move on to the next one. The stress is on the second syllable as well. Then the word remarkable, that's another adjective. So the stress is on the second syllable because in the first syllable, there is a weak vowel. Then lastly, we have criticism. This one's a little bit different because this time around, we have weak vowels in all of the syllables in the word. And so when we have weak vowels in all of the syllables, we go back to our normal rule. We act as though it has all strong syllables. So the rule for nouns is that the stress is placed on the first syllable, right? So we revert back to the normal rule we are familiar with when all of the syllables have a weak vowel in them. So the stress is on the first syllable in this case. So this is why the word criticism has a different syllable from the rest of them. Let's go back to the screen to mark our answer. So since criticism has the stress on the first syllable, our answer to this question is option D, criticism. Question 59. Again, we have to choose the option that has a different stress pattern from the others. We have impound, subject, canoe, and knowledge. So let's go to the board to find out what our answer will be. So for the word impound, it's transcribed as this, impound. The word subject is a verb, so it's transcribed as this, subject. So this is different from the noun version, which is transcribed as this, subject. So you can see the difference. Then we have canoe. Canoe is transcribed as this. The word knowledge is transcribed as this. Again, we have to identify what part of speech it belongs to and whether or not there is a weak vowel in each of the syllables to determine where to place the stress in each of the words. So for the word impound, impound is a verb. So the stress is usually on the last syllable. So the stress is on the second syllable. Then for the word subject, this time around we are considering the verb and not the noun. So for verbs, the stress is usually on the second syllable. This is different from the noun, where the stress is on the first syllable. And you can see the first syllable doesn't have the schwa sound that it has in the verb version. Then for the word canoe, the stress is supposed to be on the first syllable because it's a noun. But because of the weak vowel in the first syllable, we move on to the next one. So the stress is on the second syllable. Then for the word knowledge, the stress is on the first syllable because it's a noun. Okay? So we have the stress on the first syllable. So we can see that knowledge is the one that is different because the stress is on the first syllable. Let's go back to the screen to mark our answer. So since the stress is on the first syllable in knowledge, our answer to this question is option D. Question 60. The word in capital letters has the emphatic stress. Choose the option to which the given sentence relates. Your mother can cook the meal. A, who will cook the meal? B, can my father cook the meal? C, isn't my mother able to cook the meal? And D, what can my mother do? So the answer to this question is option C. Remember that emphatic stress is the placement of greater stress on a particular word in a sentence or utterance. And the reason for that is to help to correct a misapprehension that is made by the person who asked the question. So in this case, the person is wondering whether this person's mother has the capability to cook the meal. Okay, isn't my mother able to cook the meal? He's not sure whether the mother can cook the meal. So the person responds, your mother can cook the meal, to show that yes, indeed she can. She has the capability to cook the meal. So it can't be option A, because this time around there are two things that are different. The fact that the person doesn't know who can cook the meal, and the fact that the person is not sure whether the person will be able to cook the meal. So since there are two things that the person is unsure of, that can be the answer to this question. Otherwise, they will have to stress two different things, and that is not possible. So it can be option B, because they talked about my father, and your mother is not stressed. So when they stress your mother, then that could be the answer. Then for option D, what can my mother do? In this case, they are asking what she can do. So normally the action of cooking the meal is what to be stressed, if that is the answer to the question. So the answer to this question is option C. Isn't my mother able to cook the meal? Question 61. So this is another question on emphatic stress. We have to choose the option to which the given sentence relates. The Eagles won the match. A, did the Eagles lose the match? B, who won the match? C, what did the Eagles win? And D, did the Eagles win the match? So remember that emphatic stress is the placement of greater stress on a particular word or syllable in an utterance. So in this particular case, the stress is on the word Eagles. We have to look for the option that doesn't have Eagles in it, and that is option B. Option A has Eagles, option C has Eagles, option D has Eagles. So our answer to this question is option B, who won the match. Question 62. Choose the option nearest in meaning to the word or phrase underlined. No wonder Sikemi later became a detective. She has been very observant. A, curious, B, perceptive, C, inductive, and D, inquisitive. The answer to this question is option B, perceptive. The word observant actually means someone who pays watchful attention to what is going on around him or her. The word curious actually means someone who tends to ask a lot of questions in order to gain knowledge. The word perceptive means insightful, to have intuition about what is going on. Then the word inductive means introductory or preparatory. The word inquisitive means tending to seek knowledge by asking a lot of questions. So the word observant and perceptive are similar in meaning, because they both have to do with paying watchful attention to what is going on in the environment. It can't be curious or inquisitive, because that has to do with acquiring knowledge, tending to ask questions in order to gain knowledge about what is going on. Okay, it's different from being observant and paying attention to what is going on around you. So the answer to this question is option B, perceptive. Do you know you can take practice questions with our simulated JAMB CBT past questions? All you need to do is to click on the link in the description below. This takes you to the Myschool website. There you can download the Myschool mobile app for your Android devices and the Myschool software for your laptops and computers. Please go ahead and start practicing. Now to question 63. Choose the option nearest in meaning to the word or phrase underlined. Nigeria has been playing a vital role in the political and economic development of Africa. A, creditable, B, crucial, C, respectable, and D, laudable. The answer to this question is option B, crucial. The word vital means very important, something you cannot do without. And Nigeria has been playing a very important role in Africa's development. So the word creditable actually means something that is worthy of being credited. Okay, so it can be the answer to the question. The word respectable means deserving respect. So it's not the answer to this question. And laudable means praiseworthy. So all of this does not really convey the idea of something that is very important. Crucial conveys that idea. It means very important. So our answer to this question is option B, crucial. I believe you're enjoying this content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos. Question 64. Again, we have to choose the option that is nearest in meaning to the underlined word. Emeka's painting was so realistic that it could almost have been a photograph. A, picturesque, B, concrete, C, lively, and D, authentic. The answer to this question is option D, authentic. The word realistic actually means something that is real, something that is close to reality, real life. It is something that is genuine and authentic. So the word picturesque actually means something that is visually attractive, something very vivid. The word concrete is the quality of something that can be seen and touched. The word lively actually means full of life and energetic. But authentic means genuine, something that is closely approximated to reality. So it is the closest in meaning to the word realistic. So our answer to this question is option D, authentic. Question 65. Again, we have to look for the option nearest in meaning to the word underlined. Courteously, Ade stood back to let his teacher go first through the door. A, calmly, B, politely, C, carefully, and D, patiently. So the word courteously actually means with civility and with good manners. If you don't know the meaning of the word, you can also look at the context in which the word is used. Ade stood back to let his teacher go first through the door. That actually means he's being polite. He allows his teacher to go through first. So the answer to this question is option B, politely, because it also means with good manners and civility. Question 66. Again, we have to look for the option nearest in meaning to the underlined word. Many people used to live in poverty. A, instability, B, wants, C, difficulty, and D, the slums. The answer to this question is option B, wants. The word poverty actually means not having enough means to take care of oneself or one's family. It's not similar in meaning to the word instability. Instability is the quality of being unstable. So the fact that you have instability in your life or in the life of your family doesn't mean you're in poverty. It's a generic word. The instability might result from something else that is not poverty. So that is not the answer to this question. It also can be difficulty. Although when you're in poverty, you have a lot of difficulty. But again, there are other things that can lead to difficulty. It can't be the slums, because the fact that you are in poverty doesn't mean you have to live in the slums. So they are not interchangeable. So the answer to this question is option B, wants. We usually use the phrase to live in wants to refer to living in a state of poverty and not being able to take care of yourself or your family members. So our answer to this question is option B, wants. Question 67. Again, we have to look for the option nearest in meaning to the underlined word. Accountability is certainly a desirable quality in a politician. A, respectability, B, courage, C, responsibility, and D, diligence. The answer to this question is option C. Accountability means being able to account for your actions and the things you do, especially when you're placed in a position of power. When you're given a lot of responsibility, you should be able to account for your actions. So that is what accountability is. Respectability is not a synonym for accountability. Respectability has to do with doing something that is deserving of respect. It doesn't necessarily mean accountability. Courage means having the fortitude, the strength, or the bravery to do something. Then the word diligence actually means doing things carefully. It doesn't mean being accountable for your actions. The word that is similar in meaning to accountability is responsibility, because when you are responsible, you are accountable for every single thing that you do. So the answer to this question is option C, responsibility. Question 68. Again, we have to look for the option that is nearest in meaning to the underlined word. The common practice among some media practitioners is to be sensational in their reporting. A, prevalent, B, rampant, C, ordinary, and D, cogent. The answer to this question is option A, prevalent. The word common actually means something that is widespread, that has been normalized among so many different people. So prevalent is similar in meaning to that. Prevalence means widespread. But the word rampant also means widespread, but this time around it's uncontrollable widespread, something that's a practice that has been spread among every member of the society, but you can't control that spread. So it can't be the option that is similar in meaning to common. Ordinary means something that is mundane, that is everyday. So it is not similar in meaning to the word common. The word cogent means convincing. So the answer to this question is option A, prevalent, because it means widespread. Question 69. Again, we have to look for the option that is nearest in meaning to the underlined word. That fateful decision changed the company's outlook in many ways. A, wonderful, B, disastrous, C, uncontrollable, and D, unsuccessful. The answer to this question is option B, disastrous. The word fateful actually means having an important or unusually negative effect on future occurrences. So this particular decision had a very important and very negative effect on the company. So the nearest in meaning to the word fateful in this case is disastrous. So answer to this question is option B. Question 70. Again, we have to look for the nearest in meaning to the underlined word. The accident victim received a superficial wound from the crash. A, a serious, B, a painless, C, an internal, and D, an external. So a superficial wound is a wound that is on the surface and doesn't go deep. We also use it in other contexts, like someone who is superficial means someone who is not deep, who only cares about things that are on the surface. So that's what superficial means. And the closest meaning to that is external. An external injury, that means it doesn't go deep down into your skin, it's just on the surface. Our answer to this question is option D, an external. Do you have a question? Please feel free to ask a question by clicking the link in the description below. This takes you to the Myschool website. There you can ask your question and a solution will be provided to you within a short period of time. Now on to question 71. So again, we are to choose the option that is nearest in meaning to the underlying phrase. The boxer fizzled out just in the 6th round. A. Knocked out his opponent. B. Showed off his talents. C. Became tired but fought unspiritedly. And D. Surrendered rather disappointingly. So the answer to this question is option D. The phrase fizzled out or to fizzle out means to gradually end in a weak or disappointing way. So this boxer actually started strong and then eventually his strength failed him and then he gradually ended the match, surrendered rather disappointingly. So the answer to this question is option D, surrendered rather disappointingly. Do you have a better explanation or solution to any of these questions? Please feel free to indicate by going down to the comment section below. Indicate the question number and the solution you would like to share. Question 72. Again, we are to choose the option nearest in meaning to the underlying phrase. The manager described Umfon as a man of vehement character. A. Weak and interesting. B. Strong and insistent. C. Troublesome and noisy. And D. Clever and helpful. So the word vehement actually means to have a strong feeling about something, to be passionate, to be intense. So this particular person has a strong, willful, passionate character. So the closest in meaning to that is option B, strong and insistent. So our answer to this question is option B. Question 73. Again, we are to choose the option nearest in meaning to the underlined word. Obese dog is old but still lively. A. Attractive. B. Howling. C. Barking. And D. Frisky. So the answer to this question is option D, frisky. Frisky is a word that is usually used to describe a pet that is full of energy, full of life. You know, when your pet is usually jumping around, wagging its tail, it is usually frisky. So the option nearest in meaning to the word lively is option D, frisky. Question 74. Again, we are to choose the option nearest in meaning to the word underlined. His taciturnity amazed everyone in the court during the legal tussle. A. Obliviousness. B. Reticence. C. Sensibility. And D. Pervasiveness. The answer to this question is option B, reticence. Someone who is taciturn is usually very reserved and quiet. He keeps to himself. So this particular person was very reserved during the legal tussle. So the nearest meaning to that word is reticence. Obliviousness actually means when you are not aware of the things that are going on around you, you are oblivious. Then sensibility means paying attention or respecting the cultural mores of a particular society. That means you are sensible. Then the word pervasiveness actually means when you are into everybody's business, when you are always interrupting in the affairs of other people. So the word nearest in meaning to taciturnity is reticence. Reticence also means quiet, reserved. Remember they made use of that to describe Sally in The Life Changer. So the answer to this question is option B, reticence. I believe you've enjoyed this content. If yes, please don't forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos.